So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
It will be sunrise soon, but you need to see this. They call this the Freedom Trail. Bodies go all the way into town.
But why such horror?
The sign, warning, North Carolina outlawed Negroes. They are simply not allowed nor tolerated.
Even slaves?
Especially slaves. The savagery a man is capable of when he believes his cause to be just.
Greetings, people. Thanks for joining us for another recap of Underground Railroad. And of course, before we get started, just some housekeeping things. Make sure you click that little like button and also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're watching. Thanks to everyone who watched our first episode. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. So we're on Apple Music, we're on Spotify, we're on Anchor, Radio Public. We're on everything. We're on everything. So, D, how's it going?
Flooding the market. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. We are
Right,
here to we are here to talk about episode 3 of Underground Railroad, entitled North Carolina. So, since you read the novel recently, just talk about your thoughts as you were reading through this chapter in the novel.
North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think my thoughts were, I kid you not, the whole time, I'm like, how long has it been? How long has it been? I kept wondering, how long has she been up there? Because, at one point she had lost mad weight and the house lady was coming and going and coming and going. There had been several town meetings or whatnot. So outside of me wondering how she was going to get out of this situation, it was, how long has she been up there? And are they ever planning to let her go? That's what it was. Because I think at some point I just realized, oh, she's just gonna, like, they fully expect her to just die there in the attic, in this small space. And I was honestly surprised she lasted longer than she did, because she wasn't getting exercise and very little sunlight. So I don't know. What you think?
Yeah, so as I was reading through this chapter in the novel, which I think is, I said this last week, is the most well-written portion of the novel. But as I was reading through, it actually taught me something, because it made me actually look up slavery in North Carolina times. And it made me realize that in 1790, they actually outlawed slavery, but not for a good cause. They outlawed slavery because, of course, due to their cash crop being tobacco, they needed a lot of slaves. And in some counties, the slaves basically were 3 times the white population in certain counties. And of course, they're getting wind of all of the revolts that are happening. And they were like, we don't want that to happen here. So yeah, there was a time where North Carolina actually outlawed slavery, which is crazy to think about, considering they didn't do it for the right reason. So like I said, reading this chapter, it actually taught me a lot I didn't know. So that's why I think it's the most interesting chapter in the novel.
I'm glad you said that, because to me, it kind of goes along with Ridgeway, and we'll get to him, because I know you thought that episode was kind of, whatever. But it kind of, for me, puts into perspective that you see 2 things happening, but that doesn't necessarily make them good things. Like, you see Ridgeway has Homer, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe he doesn't hate Black people, but he does. And then you see South Carolina North Carolina, right? Or with South Carolina?
Yeah, this is North Carolina.
North Carolina. North Carolina has, like you said, outlawed slavery, but it's not because slavery was this evil, vile thing. It was at their, in my opinion, and I guess there's an actual fact to it, but I'm hoping it's fact. But it's like you said, it's more so survival versus this is just bad and we should do better. It is, there are too many of them and we got to get this under control. So let's free them. Let's say no slaves. And they made it a point to say too that like not only was slavery abolished, but it's almost like Black people too. So like we don't want slavery here, but that means no Black people can be here because that's all they are. All they are slaves. So if there's no slavery, then Black people don't belong in this state at all anyway, which is sickening if you think about it. They're still people, but to them it's not. It's like, okay, well, if they can't do anything for us, then why do we want them here?
So yeah, as I like read through basically the history of slavery in North Carolina, and then I thought back on the book, it made me think like, okay, maybe this is why the North Carolina stop of the Underground Railroad in this novel has been, disbanded basically, and like no one uses it because why would they need to use it? Because there, in theory, are no slaves going through North Carolina, so why would they need to use it? Does that sound logical to you? Do you think that's why maybe Martin wasn't really expecting anyone?
I think so. It's like what did you expect, right? Because in other stops at the railroad, there were provisions on some level, right? When they went to South Carolina, it was like, okay, here's your name, this is where you're going to get set up. These are the jobs you can do. We're going to teach y'all to read. There are things in the state that are set up for people to thrive. South Carolina is like, you're not even supposed to be here. So why would you come? Why would you come? Like, why are you here? There's not even, I can't justify you being here more so. And I'm sure that was difficult. I'm not making excuses for Martin at all because I see him differently now than I did before. But it kind of makes me wonder why he was down there at all. Like even in the first place, why was he even there? And I'm assuming it was just because Cora got, I don't want to say lucky. She was blessed enough to get like the last, because, he was even the conductor said, this is just maintenance. I can't even transport people. So I'm thinking it was like almost like a demolition type thing. Like we're going to sweep through one last time to make sure everything's fine. And then we're going to blow it to hell. But Cora happened to be there. And it's like, what are you doing here? This was not a part of the plan. This was not supposed to happen at all. But it did. So on the one hand, you kind of like, okay, you give Martin some credit for taking her on, even though he had no idea what she was supposed to do or what she was going to do. And on the other hand, you got to give Cora credit for just saying, oh, no, I am going and you will take me. And that's just it. So it's kind of weird to me.
Yeah. So there's one line where he says, I've scattered provisions throughout the route, like just in case somebody turns up. So I guess if you are riding the railroad or taking that path, like just walking it, and you happen to stumble into like the North Carolina station, like there will be something for you there, even though like this isn't the place you need to be. And also in the novel, it goes a bit into his backstory of why he's this why he leaves the station. Basically, it was almost like he just inherited the duties from his father. So we can make of that like whatever we can. Like, okay, is he really for this cause, or is he just doing it just simply because he viewed his father a certain way and he's just carrying that on, but his heart isn't really in it. But that's something we could definitely get into. But you mentioned Grace.
I just want to say before we get off that, I want you to remember to remind me to go back to that, because I think that kind of ties in with Ridgeway as well. Right. The whole father-son duty thing, it goes together.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna clear the paint and let you have the Ridgeway episode. But yeah, you mentioned Grace. So as Martin is sneaking her into the house, he tells her about the crawl space in the attic that's like a false attic, a false room in the attic. And as she's climbing up, he says the words to her, "Let Grace be your guide." And of course I'm thinking like, okay, like He
He's
means like,
religious.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. He means grace isn't like, but get upstairs and we see an actual grace. This is a deviation from the novel. So how do you feel about the inclusion of the character Grace?
I didn't like it. And it's not that I didn't like it because she didn't add to the story. I didn't like it because I didn't expect her to be there. and I just didn't I didn't want her to be there. I didn't like that she was there. I don't know how long she's been there because even Cora asked her and she was kind of like, oh. So it's almost like, girl, have you always been there? Like, is this your life? Has your entire life been, just been closed to this act? Like, this is you. This is what you live for. So I honestly, out of everything in the show, and I want to add, just because something is great doesn't mean it's above criticism. That is my criticism. I did not like the inclusion of Grace just because I just didn't see the point of her being there. Maybe it'll come up later. I don't know, but I didn't see the point.
Yeah, I will say this, like from transferring this piece of work from one medium to another, that portion of the novel would have been pretty hard. You have Cora in the attic by herself, like just thinking thoughts, not really saying anything. So that doesn't really work for TV. So of course they needed like a buffer there. But I'm actually with you. Like I said, I understand why the character was included, but at the same time, like considering this is like I think I won't say my favorite part because none of this is like, oh, it's my favorite,
right.
Slavery.
We don't love it.
Yeah. Yeah. But considering that this is like, I think like the best part of the novel, having her there, it kind of, to me, it kind of took a little bit away from what Cora had to deal with the time she was there, because we only see one demonstration in the town square, like in this episode, but Cora had to sit through several, like every Friday, week after week after week. So, and once again, not like getting away from torture porn, like we don't want that, but at the same time, like I think it kind of like lessens what Cora had to go through by the inclusion of Grace. So
it takes away from Martin too, because again, I don't want anybody to think I'm saying Martin was this great guy or savior or anything of that nature. But the novel had him go up to her, repeat like frequently. Well, not frequently at all, obviously, but he's the only person that would go up to her and give her food, give her conversation to keep her from going insane. Because you have to remember, she's in solitary and she has to pretty much be as quiet as possible for several hours of every day. And she can't stretch her legs. She's in almost like a torture box for the majority of the day, all day, for months on end. So the novel showed Martin going up to speak to her, to let her stretch her legs a little bit once they sent their girl with her evil racist ass home, and working kind of with what was his wife's name? Ethel?
Yeah, Ethel, yeah.
With Ethel.
We'll get to that. Hold on. I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. So I think though that what it does do is show us yet another person that Cora was kind of charged, or that Cora decided to kind of latch onto, that she wasn't able to save. This is somebody else, because this is Chester all over again, because this is the same, a child that she took on. Now you can argue that Grace is actually taking care of Cora.
Oh, she is. She is
big time, but you can still see how Cora is still that like maternal figure in a way, because they're showing her braiding her hair, they're showing her talking to her about the seeds and the okra and all that good stuff. And I think we should have been paying attention when she had I think they were okra seeds.
Yeah, okra
and Grace
seeds.
asked her, "What are those?" She's like, "They're okra seeds." She's like, "Well, you should plant them." I mean, and it just, to me, that solidified the thought in my brain that Grace was like, "We ain't going nowhere. You might as well plant them. I mean, they're not gonna do any good here." But Cora still, in her being, had the thought or the desire or the fight still inside of her to want to leave. Like she hadn't settled in her brain that this is where we're gonna be. It's just like, girl, you need to find somewhere to plant them because they're meant to grow. They're meant to be in the ground. They're meant to grow. They're not just supposed to be in your pocket. So it's just like, okay, this is really scary because Grace, like, what kind of life is this? And you can't do what's worse because, I mean, what's worse than slavery? Probably nothing, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
But this is still slavery. This is very well still slavery because even Martin told her, if we do this, you are not my slave, but you will obey me. And I was just like, ooh, well, isn't it the same thing?
Yeah.
Isn't it the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it?
I mean, it is, and it's because, like I said, it's not like, I mean, and once again, like I said, I have mixed feelings about Martin's character, but
Me too.
he was saying that because he was like, yeah, you are duty bound to me, but I have to keep myself alive too. Like, so please, whatever you do, like, listen to me, like, because we could all be dead here, so please listen to me. And especially since he took on Grace, and then his wife comes in, and it's almost like D, like what if you come home tomorrow and like your husband has a puppy at home, and then you're like, hey, we didn't talk about this. I mean, the puppy is here to stay. Cool. Okay. But what if you come home next week and your husband has 2 puppies and you're like, hey, man.
2 puppies. And these are puppies that the neighborhood association has banned.
Yeah.
Right. So now I have to have these 2 puppies in my house to keep away from the neighborhood association. Because if they find out we have not 1 but 2 puppies, they don't kick us out the house. Like
your HOA says, hey, no bully breeds, and he brought home like 2 pit bulls, and you're like, hey, man, like, what are you doing?
No, he brought a Rottweiler the first time, and then he brought a pit bull, and you just like,
hey, man, come on,
what are we doing? And then every Friday, we go out and say, down with the bully breeds.
Yes.
We hate bully breeds. Like, what? So there's a part of me that's like, okay, yeah, he has to have some sort of backbone, but I think it's kind of not necessarily that. I think it's just the snake way, because he knows she can't say anything. Because they're not gonna believe that, oh, my husband did this. They're gonna say, okay, like they said, burn the witch. So both of y'all in trouble. And he knows that. So it's manipulation, which sucks. Although I feel nothing for Ethel. Like,
yeah, I was about to say, even though Ethel is like a terrible person, like, she knows better than Martin, because Martin is slightly naive by thinking he can like save Cora, because you are in a state where Black people are like just not allowed in general. So how are you possibly going to sneak her out of there? Like, when is going to be the perfect time to sneak her out of there?
There's no time.
There is no time.
There will be a moment where you can get her out of the house and nobody notices. Never. Not one moment. And then it looked like the way they lived, it was almost like a,
yeah, it was
at that time. They had a subdivision. So it's not like you can just get out and no neighbor is going to be outside or somebody isn't going to notice. Because even if you get her out of the house, you have to get her somewhere else. Where are you going to take her?
Where are you going to take her?
Martin, bless. Bless. Do you think, though, Grace, I'm wondering, do you think Grace is there because she was on that last railroad trip, the last train before they shut it down? Or is she... Like, where do you think she came from? Just I guess you just spitballing, because she's made up. So you can really make her come from wherever she wants to. But that would be my guess, that she was on the last one, and then it shut down, and it was just like, well, damn, what we gonna do with her? Like, what do we do with her now?
Yeah, that was probably it, because the way that Jemison is it Jemison or Jameson? My bad.
It's Jameson.
Okay,
no, it is Jemison. I'm thinking about liquor now. I don't know. Let me look it up. Go ahead.
So the way he was talking, the rules that North Carolina just enacted, it seems like they are pretty recent-ish. So it is possible that she was on Jemison, that she was on the last stop, and North Carolina changed their rules like on the fly, and now she's like stuck there.
So I guess with slavery too, because I've wondered this. It took me way too long to wonder this. I just want to put that out there. I'm not ashamed though. But even with the Emancipation Proclamation, right? You go to these plantations, you say, "Hey y'all, you're free." Where they gonna go?
Mhm.
Where do I go? I have been here my entire life. I have been restricted from learning to read, to write, to count, probably, which you could probably figure out though. But I'm just saying, like, I've been restricted from learning or getting any kind of education. So what am I supposed to do? Where do I go? What's next? And I'm
And
assuming that's what it is. Like for South Carolina, where did the people? Sorry, North Carolina. Where did they go? Once you ban Black people, did they migrate or?
I have a feeling they didn't have a chance to migrate.
Yeah.
It's almost like
That's what's on that trail.
yeah, it was almost like the purge. Like people were like, "Oh, cool, so we get to
So
do
that's
this
what's
now."
okay.
All right.
So all the people that are on the trail that Cora saw, that he made sure to wake her up to see, that's a part of it. Plus the every Friday thing.
Yeah,
That's awful.
that's
That's
terrible.
heartbreaking.
That is terrible. Yes.
Sheesh. So yeah, it's like a purge, like an ethnic cleansing, really.
Exactly. Like
Wow.
they are no longer permitted in. Like you can't even come close to North Carolina because remember, like the girl that they executed in Town Square, she was found on a ship. So it was like you can't even
look like you were attempting to come this way.
right.
Were you gonna pass through North Carolina? Well, no, you gotta die.
No, exactly.
How am I gonna stop? I'm just gonna keep going. But yeah, that's where we at.
But slavery isn't completely over with because of course, racist white people need someone to oppress, so they have replaced Black people with Irish people.
The Irish.
Yes. So
now,
yes.
What's her name? Fiona?
Fiona, yes.
I hate that bitch Fiona. Okay. Here's the problem with Fiona. And this is the greatest trick that supremacists pull. Okay. They make you think that you are even close to their level. And therefore you're better than whoever they are. It's that old, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if both of us hate Black people, that means you're better than Black people. So we're cool. I'm better than you, right? Like, please remember that. I am better than you, but you're better than Black people. So let's just be here. More like here, I guess. And then the Black people are down there somewhere where you can't see. And she drank the Kool-Aid. Like Fiona very, very much drank the Kool-Aid and had this thought of, I am better than these people. And the craziest part is that she doesn't understand that they don't see her as anything other than a slave that they can't beat. Like, you are a slave that I have to pay and treat with respect, some respect. But you're not one of us. You'll never be one of us. And I know that that's the case because even Martin said they had to replace you with somebody, or they replaced y'all with something. Can't expect them to do it themselves. And I was like, how awful can you be? You're not healthy. Y'all are not invalids. You're just lazy as shit. And that's the best part about the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all this stuff. You're not doing anything on your own. Nothing. Nothing that you have accomplished has been done by your works. You just you're getting you're accomplishing things off the backs of slaves still, whether they be Black or Irish. It's just the way you treat them. And the fact that Fiona was the one that was so gung-ho about turning them in, it's just, I just know she did it for the white gaze because she thought she'd get favor,
Exactly. So think about this. So this is a carryover from the happenings in Europe. So of course, you have the big global power, which is England, and their neighbors next door, which is Ireland. Well, there's beef there. So a lot of Irish people, they fled Ireland, because there's no food, we're poor, the English are just beating us up basically. So let's move to America where the fiefdoms we were serving, like, hey, like maybe we can still make a little money over in this this new colony, which is America. So they come over, they're indentured servants, and basically this creates like basically the race class in America. Like there are race classes. Of course, black is at the bottom, right above that, like barely above that is Irish. But this was the time when all of these things were mixed into the pot and it just simply became white. Because like as I put in the notes, the the largest population to fight for the Confederacy in the Civil War that wasn't natural born white men in America. Irish people. And D, you're still in Alabama, so you've probably heard of Claiborne County. Claiborne County was named after General Claiborne, and you are familiar with, the LSU Tigers, and you probably don't know that the LSU Tigers got their name from an all Irish brigade that fought in the Confederate War on the side of the Confederacy. So I say Confederate War, Civil War, you know what I mean. But yeah. So yeah, basically, so we had these layers of class, and the Civil War gave people an opportunity to not be looked at as Irish anymore, and not to be looked at as, like whatever other race there was at the time. Like they started to be looked at as white. So that's why Fiona harbored that hate towards, she was basically like, oh, this is my chance. Y'all can't even be like the white people I want to be, because, you're hiding black people, like you're despicable white people. So that's when these things start to happen, and it stops going from, oh, I'm English, I'm Irish, to just I'm white. Like this is what starts to happen.
I agree. She's not, I guess, worse than the other people. It just feels worse because it just feels, I guess, like a double whammy when another marginalized group it becomes your oppressor. It's like, we're supposed to be in this together. You should understand, especially with all those things you just said about them pretty much suffering similar evils. You would think that they would come together, but it's more like I have to step on these people to move up versus exactly. I can help pull them up with me, which is, sad. I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but it's just like that's what so many people expect Black people to do when it's not done for us. Like whenever something happens for Black people, whenever Black people decide, okay, enough, we're going to stand, we're going to march, Black Lives Matter, people want us to champion everybody else's rights with us, like grab them on and link us all together. But y'all the ones go out there and get beat up and abused and shot and all that stuff. That's y'all. But when it comes down to it, you got to be for everybody getting equality, which I am. By the way, make no mistake, I have no problem whatsoever with every person being treated equally. I agree that that's the way it should be. You are a human being. But it's hard to take everything when we're the only ones having with the support. Right? We're only one supporting ourselves. When everybody else has their cause, that's fine that they only have their cause. But the Black people are supposed to be for everybody. And if that was the case for everybody, then it'd be great. But it's just, it's tiring. Like, it's hard.
Basically, what you're saying is like you don't really care for the purity test, which would basically be like, what if Fiona went up, like she knew like they were up there. She went up to the attic and she says like, hey, like yada yada yada, what are you doing up here? And Cora says, I'm a runaway slave, and she was like, well, I'm an indentured servant, so you should care about that too. So even though you're like at the lowest of the low on the totem pole, service
matter,
right. Exactly.
And again, I don't have a problem with that. You can champion more than one cause. That's not a problem. But like recognize that it's not one cause, it's multiple. Like it can be this one thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. The Black Lives Matter Black situation does not all encompass every injustice in every situation. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I agree.
Sorry, this is off topic, but had to get it out. Can't we talk about Jameson though? I did look it up. It's Jameson.
Yeah,
You
that
asked
was actually that was actually the next point. So yeah, get into it.
you asked what did you think the demonstrations were trying to accomplish, and I think they showed us what it was, and it was like you said, to get the Fionas and everybody else to make sure that everybody knew, hey, keep as many Black people that you see or have any contact with away, because that's straight fear. I think at this point, that's what it is. It's beyond hatred or anything else. They are afraid that it's going to be the uprisings, like you were saying, from the West Indies and stuff. They're going to turn into something like that. So it's survival at this point. It's fear, but they can't say that. They can't say that we're afraid that they're going to multiply in numbers, and then we'll be the minority, and then they're going to remember all the things that happened to them, and they're going to wild out. They can't say that because they're too prideful. So what they're doing is being the worst kind of savage possible to try to keep Black people afraid and keep anybody that is in any kind of connection with Black people afraid. I honestly think that was his thing. It had nothing to do with religion or purity or I can't even think of anything else. Now, the burning the books part, you're going to have to tell me what you think that was. Was it propaganda?
Yeah, so they were burning abolitionist papers. So,
okay.
This is one change, because correct me if I'm wrong, that part was not in the novel, correct? So
it wasn't.
This is one change from the novel to the TV show that I actually really like, because this shows the birth of modern conservatism, which is like, we have this idea, and to justify this idea, we have to say it is divine and God ordained, and any opposition to this is therefore not of God. So we must we must take it to the extreme to eradicate it, which is burning these abolitionist papers. Now, you are burning papers that are simply saying, like, hey, like, maybe we should free Black people. Yeah. So when we get it,
we can do it. It's possible.
Yeah, so we're connecting that from back then to like what's happening today, when certain orange people were in power and people would speak against it, and they would be like, no, but this is from God. Like, this is from on high, so you can't challenge this. So
the man upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to show like the lengths that evil was justified in this country. So when they're burning those abolitionist papers, like, it's not like Jameson just saying like, hey, like, this is me just telling you this is bad. He's like, no, this is the Bible saying this is bad.
God said.
Yes.
Hallelujah. But you know what? You know who else did that? Terrence.
Who did that? Yeah.
Terrence did the exact same thing to justify setting the man on fire. If that doesn't tell you that this form of Christianity is insane, I don't know what does. Like, people will find a way to justify their evil. We know that, though, and it's kind of weird that so many people allow it, or so many people, again, drink the Kool-Aid, because that's what they're doing. They're just following behind it blindly because this man says, I'm a preacher, I know what God wants, so this is it, because I am the messenger from God who said so.
Sure. Yeah. And speaking of using religion for one's purpose, I want to transition to your homegirl Ethel, because that which also appears in the novel and the TV show. Hold on, let me take a few steps back. Actually, back, because I sent you a message that says, if you want to be entertained, go read like the reviews of like Underground Railroad on Amazon Prime, which are just they are so terrible that they're amazing. And a lot of people, I think they had this idea in their head before they ever watched the show. They were like, oh, there are so many white saviors in this show. Ethel proves there isn't. There's not a single white savior in this show.
And so, if there were, it would be her.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm getting to. So this also shows what a lot of what we see today. Basically, how you have this sect of Christianity that says like, okay, like they're the damned people, so we could do with them as we please. But you have this other sect of Christianity that says like, me showing you this grace proves that I'm a Christian. It's not because like I value you as a human. It's just me showing you grace because I know what they do over there. And that is Ethel. So Ethel is like, she slaps the woman in the face as soon as she meets her, but then she's like, "Oh, you poor little creature. Let me nurse you back to health because my dad once had a slave and I was nice to her. So this is my purpose, to be just nice to slaves." So that is the white savior. That is the only white savior in this show, and she did not save a damn thing.
She is the epitome of a white savior. And I'm so glad you had me read those reviews, because once I watched it, that's the first thing I thought about. I'm like, this is the white savior y'all were talking about. Mm-hmm. Sam is not a white savior. Martin is not a white savior. Whoever will come next, whatever other white person is in here, not white saviors. Not at all. Because again, Ethel is what we have been seeing in other films or whatever else, which is, it is what it is. But she's awful. Like she's probably like, if Ridgeway is my least favorite character, she might be too. Because she is because, like you said, she has this thought in her brain that she's good, that that she's doing the Lord's work. And it is very much for accolades, for attention, for self-gratitude, because you care nothing about Cora at all. And the reason I know you care nothing about her is because the only reason you're taking care of her is because you think she's about to die. Mm-hmm. That's it. If you cared about her, you would have made sure she wouldn't have gotten to the point she's in. She's probably never even touched Grace. I don't know. I mean, maybe she has. Who knows? I don't know.
I doubt it. Yeah.
But you don't care about these people. You're not a good person. You want to save her. Just like you said, you want to save somebody so that you can say, I saved her. Mm-hmm. I did this. I did this. And you're going to say it was the Lord's work, but in your mind, you're doing it for yourself. And that's who she is. And that's why I despise everything about her. Now, I'm not happy that she was burned, right? I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever. It is what it is.
The game is the game, as they say. So, right as this is happening, as she's taking care of Cora, Martin is outside pretending to be sick once again, which, of course, if you have the pox, naturally, you just go sit on your front porch, right? That's what you do. But Martin, Martin is pretending to have the pox, and, there goes Ridgeway. And he's, checking, they're like, check this house. And they walk up to Martin's house. And
here's the problem. And I'm glad that they did it this way, because it shows the problem in the whole plan. They oversold it. They were doing way too much, and they were rushing Fiona out way too fast. It could have been in a more like, oh my gosh, I think he's coming down with something. Maybe you should stay off for a few days just to make sure you don't get sick. They were like, no, oh my gosh, you got to go right now. He's got the pox. You can't come back 5 days. Here, pushing out the door. And I'm like, oh, gosh,
let me go back to an important scene that is overlooked in this episode. And I'm gonna say this to like connect to a larger point. So right after the demonstration in Town Square, there's Jameson. I don't know if this man is Jameson. It's Jameson. I call this man Jameson. But yeah, it's Jameson is at the house of Ethel and Martin. Fiona is there prepping, the horse divers, as Cole would say on Martin. And Ethel just pushes Fiona out the way, and she's like, I got this. And then, so it's not that you need the help. You just need somebody to oppress. So what did them in isn't rushing Fiona out quickly is having Fiona in the first damn place. Like, you don't need, like, so basically Ethel's insistence on being higher than somebody, or feel like she has to, put her foot on somebody's neck. That's what did them in.
She has to have high class. I have a girl.
Exactly.
Therefore, I am.
Exactly. I have a girl. Yes.
You don't need a girl. You ain't even got no kids. You have you and Martin. You can take care of your house with just you and Martin. You can do that. He can help. You don't need a girl. And if you do, like, do you do it every day?
No.
Why can't she come once a week to clean if you wanted to, or to whatever else? But you're giving yourself away. She's cooking every night and the food is missing. It's two of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Of course she's gonna be like, where's all the food going?
Like, I cooked a whole ass chicken and it's all gone. Like, did y'all have a midnight snack or something? Like, where's the chicken? Where's the chicken?
And they were sloppy, and it was awful. Homer, once again, they're writing him. They're doing him a little differently in the book, because he's the one that spotted her and I know why they're doing it, I think. But he's the one that spotted her at the exhibition. What was it called? The Great Wonders?
The Museum of Natural Wonders.
Museum of Natural Wonders. He's the one that spotted her there, and he's the one that spotted her at Martin's house. That is a deviation. Mm-hmm. Because I guess it was like kind of like the cops are the ones that caught her in the novel. But anyway, she got caught. She's thrown on the porch. And there's Ridgway's ass. He's just always somewhere. We noticed, though, and I noticed that when Cora saw him downstairs, Cora was looking out and she saw that there was a ruckus when they were trying. I think this is the point where they were trying to they were going to search the house. Mm-hmm. And she's like, they're coming. Oh, because Homer had caught him. He caught him. And Ethel ran out, but she was telling her, Cora was telling Grace, it's going to be okay. I'm going to take care of it. It's going to be okay. I was wondering where she was, because all we saw was Cora come out. Mm-hmm. That's it. So we don't know what happened. Well,
we know what happened with Grace.
Yeah, no idea what happened to Grace. But Cora comes out and there's... It is a black. Oh my God. And Ethel, again, like, I don't think they could have written her better, because what did she do when she was in trouble? The first thing she did, she starts to white woman. This nigger was in my house.
Yes.
Bitch. Now you know.
Yeah, and Jameson put an end to that quick. He was like, but this nigga is with him. So who this nigga? Who this nigga?
So why is he talking about a nigga in your house, though? What's going on in your house? So it's just like, and then here comes Fiona. I knew it. They had him. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. And Martin kind of just like, he just decides to succumb to his fate. Like, of course they were weary. They cried and all that stuff. But he didn't put on as much as Ethel. Ethel had like a full out come apart. And I think it was finally... like, if she finally started to wrap her mind around the fact that her being a white woman does not matter right now. That's not going to get you out of anything. Because, she even tried to blame him. It was him. He did it. I didn't know. But okay. Sure he didn't know. And then at that point, she realized, well, dang, I'm no better than anybody else when it comes to it. When it comes down to it, they're about to kill me. And of course, it happened off camera, which I'm grateful for, because we didn't need to know. Because once again, thank you, Barry.
Because if I'm not mistaken, then the novel, Cora is being carried away from Ridgeway. She looks over her shoulder, and Martin and Ethel are being lifted by nooses.
So in the novels, they hang them, but in here they said burn the witch. So I'm not so sure what they did to her. They may have just thrown her in the house after Fiona set it on fire. Which again,
this is North Carolina. What city was it? North Carolina in the 1700s?
Oh, Salem.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Good catch. So yeah, burn the witch. That makes sense. But Martin is gone with Ridgeway and Cora, because Ridgeway has decided, I am going to see this railroad. Like it is something that I'm going to see. And that's where we go next. We're now at the point where Martin has gone, and which we haven't mentioned by now, has blown up. He just blew the entrance, right? Like he put dynamite at the entrance of the railroad, sort of blow it up and kind of like cave it in.
But that's the thing, because when Homer went down, like basically the place where the maintenance train pulled into, like that has now been barricaded. So he must have planted dynamite on the inside and the entrance. So like no one, if someone stumbled onto like the site from like the outside, they would just see rubble. But if someone got curious enough to see actually like remove like the debris and go down into the tunnel, they would just see rocks.
And do you think that, I think that was the plan though. It may have been the plan, and then he realized that this is really it. Like after Cora had been there all that time, he realized this is just it. Plus, like I now have two. I cannot take another. So he's like, I got it.
I can't. Yeah,
because he was probably supposed to do it after Grace. After he got Grace, he was probably supposed to blow it up then. Well, he's probably supposed to blow it up shortly after the maintenance train came through. And then he just didn't do it. But he started getting scared and was like, all right, let me go and take it over. I thought it was it was a very sad moment when he was apologizing to Cora though. Because she was distraught. She was really, really upset. And I think it wasn't necessarily the thought of her not there's a part of it of her thinking she would never be free. But there's another part of thinking that no one else will be able to go through it either. Right. So like this, it has stopped. So it's not just that North Carolina is the end of this train. It's almost like the end of the Underground Railroad, period, because this is the only way it can go.
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So now I want to go back to Homer though, because you mentioned he went down there, and it just goes back to show that what we were saying about him being a slave is still very much the case. Because there was no dialogue, there was no question, there was nothing about it that didn't make anybody, like the two of them understood, okay, this thing is bad. Homer, you going to check it out. That's what's going to happen. And I don't think it had anything to do with him being small or able to fit or whatever else. It was like, you probably the most expendable. I'm going down there, see what's in there. Which is also different from the novel, because that didn't happen in the novel.
Yeah,
not at this point.
Yeah, he sent a little boy down to a cave, and he was just like, well, if he makes it out cool.
Somebody had blown up. So there's no telling what you're going to disrupt when you go down there, right? It's already caving in. You send him down there to check it out, a little boy. Because Ridgeway's awesome. He's a great man. He's a great man. And he kills Martin. Quickly. Which is sad, but at least he didn't torture him. So,
Yeah, but I want to end with Ridgeway being so upset because once again, like to go full like literary here, like the underground, like not only is Cora like his big whale, but it's the Underground Railroad itself, because a lot of people don't even believe it exists. So he was like this close to like uncovering like a Underground Railroad stop, and now it's like reduced to like rubble and debris. So that's why he permits Bozeman to kill Martin. And
you know what that reminded me of?
What's that?
Have you seen the Book of Eli?
Yes.
You know the end when he has his thing, he has the book, and he's like, read it, and she's like, nope. She's like, you've waited all your life to have it, and here it is, and you still don't have it. It's exactly like that. Because even Homer got to see it, and like I can explain it to you, I can describe it, but you still haven't seen it for yourself, which is what he really, really, really wants.
Exactly.
So yeah. Oh, that was the other thing. The end when Cora asked, "How did you find me?" and he said, "I don't think I found." He's like, "I didn't find you. I think you found me." And I'm like, what? what does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does it? Well, he tried to make everything mean something other than it was. Like, no, you actively decided to seek her out and you found her, Ridgeway. That's what you did. You asked about the city and you found her. This isn't. Now, in the novel, he did sneak up on, she kind of fell in his lap in the novel. But from the television series, it's making it seem as if he has been actively seeking her out from day one. And he found out about the skyscraper and just followed the trail from there. So he's been looking for her. It's not like, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of a nod to both.
He just needs his purpose. He needs to feel like, oh, like this was meant to be. Like I didn't find you. I was just perusing through the South and the antebellum South, and there you were. But no, like you said, he's applying meaning to something that he's actively doing to give himself purpose, but whatever. But yeah, so we will pause here, take a quick break, and we will come
some snacks.
Yeah, and we will come right back for our recap of episode 4, which is entitled The Great Spirit. And
it'll be quick. Just stick with us, I promise.
It's gonna be quick because so thanks for joining us.
We got an order today for Parson horseshoes. 4 times the size of any we ever had. 4 times.
Perhaps it's time we bought ourselves a few slaves. Ease the burden. We can afford it. Way less costly than hide out all these freed men.
You know what kind of family this is.
But think about it. Maybe that's the real Great Spirit. If you're meant to be free, then you are free. And if you're meant to be in chains, then you're a nigger.
Okay.
So thanks for joining us again for episode 4 entitled The Great Spirit. And D, before we get started, I want to ask you a question. Did you notice a reunion of 2 major characters of one of our most favorite yet underrated shows? Oh, Quarry. So in the previous episode, we had Damon Harriman, who was the assistant. Well, I was about to say sidekick to Quarry, and then we have Peter Mulligan in this episode, who was the broker. So I just wanted to mention that.
I did not notice. I didn't pay any attention at all.
Yeah. So Martin was in Quarry. Yeah, and Peter Mulligan, who is the father of young Ridgeway in this episode, that is the broker in Quarry. Broker. So yeah. By the way, you should totally watch Quarry if you haven't. Quarry. Yeah, you should watch Quarry. But let's get into this episode. This is the part where I will ask you general impressions, but I think I'm going to take it first. This episode was not needed, in my opinion.
Okay.
And to go a bit into, like, I guess I made this analogy like when we were texting. I was like, it's kind of like the Han Solo movie, because Han Solo is cool because we don't know anything about him. Ridgeway, even though he's a piece of shit, he's such a good character because we read him as a man who thinks he has principles, but we know he doesn't, obviously, because he's a bounty hunter. So I didn't need this episode. I don't need an elaboration of what makes Ridgeway. So with that said, I didn't need this episode. So D, I'll let you have it.
This is where we differ, because Ronnie is a person that is okay with letting the mystery be. I am more of a but why? And especially with Ridgeway, because I couldn't understand him as far as his relationship with Homer. Now, I will say it's not that it's difficult. It's just one of those things where, like we said before, people are like, I can't be racist. I have a black friend. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And that's pretty much what he is. The thing that I took away from the Ridgeway episode, though, was sometimes you can raise your children in a way and they still turn out to be who they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Ridgeway is. Because from what we've gathered, he had a decent father. I can't give him too much credit because I only saw what I saw, right? It looked as if he actually employed Black people. It didn't look like indentured servitude. It didn't look like slavery. It looked like full out, you work here and I pay you. Like, that's just what it is. What do you think, though? Like, do you think his mother passing away had something to do with it? Like, is it a jealousy type thing where he is missing some form of affection and he's getting jealous that his dad gives it to other people, especially
Yeah, that's obviously what it is. He's mad that his dad gives it to basically people that he feels is like lesser, because like young Ridgeway even mentions like, well, why don't we get a few slaves? And his dad is like, but they work for us. Excuse me. So that's what it is. He feels like his dad is showing affection to other people and not him, even though his father, by all accounts, seems like a decent man.
Decent man.
Yeah, considering the time. So yeah.
Okay, so with that, there was a talk of this great spirit.
Yes.
You think, what do you think, in just layman's terms, what do you think the great spirit is that they're speaking of?
So the Great Spirit, and once again, I don't want to speak up my ass, so people correct me, but in a lot of indigenous cultures, like they speak of the Great Spirit, like this is their religion. It flows through everything. It flows through nature, flows through animals, flows through humans, is in us all. So we must honor the Great Spirit. So, and considering that Ridgeway is from Tennessee, and jumping ahead, if you've read the novel, I think he says he's from Cherokee land. Like, it made me wonder, like, was his mother of like indigenous ancestry? Like, I don't know, but yeah, so that's what they're talking about. So obviously, also interesting that his father seemingly doesn't follow like Christianity. He follows like basically the religious beliefs of like, yeah, the spirituality of the indigenous people, and he employs Black people. Surely there's no correlation there.
Not at all. But you know what? That would make sense. And I don't want to take away from the fact that he's just a decent man. And keep in mind, I'm saying decent because this is a time in slavery. So most white people at their best were decent, like just decent. That's not to say that there weren't some good white people, because of course there were. Like, there's good, and sometimes they're good people. But I'm thinking that his dad is just a decent man, at the very least, he's a decent man. And if his wife were of some other ancestry, it would make sense, because there has to be something you see that makes Black people human to you in that time. There's something that they had to, that made people more than what they look like, more than their skin. And if she was from a marginalized group, then it would be easier for him to attach to other people somewhat like her for that reason. Ridgeway it showed he's very entitled, and that is what I was missing. I didn't get that from reading the novel, just because I was just trying to figure it out. Like, there was a part of me that's like, Ridgeway could be a good man. At the least, Ridgeway could be a decent man. He could be, because even though he keeps saying it felt like he was saying it when it refers to Black people, because he was trying his best not to attach himself to them. Like, he wanted to keep himself in the frame of mind of where these are not people, they are things. These are not people, they are things. So he had to constantly call them it. And Cora called him out about it once, but like, you can say it all you want to, but it's a person. I think that's what it was. So the fact that he is entitled helped me understand why he wasn't a decent person. Because he, in speaking to his dad, had this, he I guess thought he had this understanding of, if you are a good person, then you're white. If you're bad, then you're born Black. Like, that's the draw. So you had to do something to be born in this predicament. So you're inherently evil because you're Black. Like, this is the punishment for whatever you've done in the past life, what you're going to do in a former life, whatever. Your punishment is being Black. So obviously I'm not evil because I'm white. And he's really completely missing the point that his whiteness is what's making him evil. Like, that's what's doing it. Because in his mind, he's like, he's also a bootstraps person. He's entitled and he's bootstraps, which is weird because it's very contradictory for him to believe you were born into this. You're Black, so you have to work this much harder to accomplish anything. You can work, you can get there, you can do just like Annie did. Or you can be Black and run away and do it the wrong way and suffer the consequences. And that's what makes him a great slave catcher, because he feels like they're running from their due punishment just for being Black. And he's not seeing the problem with that, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, insane, right? Because again, he has Homer. So it just doesn't make sense. My question to you though, when he had that conversation, do you think that the money itself, like the fact that he realized that he wasn't above anybody to white people, was that what did it? Because it felt like, I'm talking about when he went to purchase a coat. He saw some men dressed, wanted to be dapper, and he said, oh, I want to do that too. So he went to the store, tried to buy a coat, and the man was like, no, you don't know. If you want a coat, then you need to pay for it. So he's like, oh no, put it on my daddy's tab. Now, if your daddy want to put it on his tab, then your daddy needs to come up here and do it. And I think at that point, Ridgeway realized, I'm really not anybody. I'm my father's son, but that's just at the house. In the world, I'm nobody. And I think that like gut checked him in the worst way, because instead of him thinking, okay, let me go and make something of myself, it was, let me go and prove that I am more than all these other people.
Yeah, him buying that coat is when like you hear a Twitter story of like, oh, I went in Saks Fifth and they racially profiled me, and I bought 10,000 in Louis, and I was like, hey,
I bought it all.
But still, like, who cares? But no, I think you're definitely onto something. So he was so basically him seeing the bounty hunter in town instantly gave him his purpose, and he was like, okay, I already harbor these feelings inside of me, but now like I now have a purpose to apply this directly to. So once he saw the bounty hunter and what he did, and he was like, hey, I don't like niggers, you don't like niggers. I know where they at. I know where they at. Let's work together. So yeah, I do think you're onto something, and that was the driving force behind his purpose. Also mixed in with just his feelings about like a Negro's lot in life, being born into slavery, and coupled with basically the status that comes with a bounty hunter, like the I guess the duty and responsibility he feels that comes with that. Yeah, that definitely gave him his purpose. So it started with that simple gesture of that coat, but that coat represents, because I don't know if you know this, but the coat that he bought his father is actually the coat he wears now.
Okay.
So I think that gave him his purpose. Like, so so on top of like that coat represents something. That coat represents when I stand on y'all, and then it represents just like the moment he found his purpose.
But it's like, it's not, and it's stunning. Plus, it showed his cruelty. And there are levels to me of evil. Of course, it should be. But cruelty is a different beast in itself, right? Like, Terrence is cruel, right? On top of him being evil. Ridgeway is cruel, and he doesn't see himself as evil, which is scarier, right? Like, there's a subset of people who don't understand they're evil. So the cruel and evil and hateful shit they do is never corrected because they don't see it as evil, right?
Exactly.
There's another subset of people who are cruel. They know it's wrong. And there's a part of you that knows that it could change. It probably won't, but at least there's a part that they know it's wrong, right? Terrence and Ridgeway are in like that psychopath lane where the evil isn't, they don't feel it, because what they are being evil to doesn't feel human to them, doesn't feel significant to them, doesn't matter to to them. And I don't even think it's just Black people. It's just people who aren't me or what I feel like they should be. Now, the two instances I saw that were the most cruel, of course, one was with Mac. Was it Mac? We said his name was Mac?
Yeah, it was Mac.
Okay. So Mac is his dad's kind of pretty much his right-hand man, if you look at it that way. And Mac has a young son. Well, Terrence is working. His dad is a blacksmith, and Terrence is keeping the fire going. And his dad's like, well, not Terrence, I'm sorry, Ridgeway. Ridgeway, won't you come and help me? He didn't say Ridgeway. What's his name?
Arnold.
Yeah. Arnold, come and help me with this. And he's like, well, who's going to keep the fire going? Mac says, oh, my boy can do it. And Ridgeway takes a second. It's kind of like, wait, what? And realizes that what you are doing isn't unique to you. It's not unique to your whiteness. It's not unique to your birthright.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. And he was pissed. And it's great acting because Arnold, you see it slightly. You see it, but it's enough where you can understand. And later when young Mac is out minding his business at a well, trying to find the Great Spirit, Arnold manipulates him into walking off into a well. If that boy had died running, like seriously, okay, just put that out there. But he didn't. He hurt himself pretty bad, and you could tell that his father was very disappointed.
But you know what was funny about that? Because Ridgeway was even more pissed when he looked down into the well, and there's Matt covered in the flame. The flame didn't even go out. So he was like, the Great Spirit ain't even in you. So,
and he was like, oh, but it is though.
Yeah.
But it is, you said, because you said these were your rules. Arnold told him, if you want to keep it, you have to go with it. You always have to be with it. So Mac just walks, because Mac's a child, and children do foolish things, especially when baited by older people. He falls in the well. He hurts himself, but the flame is still there. So you have pretty much activated in him this idea even more that the Great Spirit is within him. Doesn't matter about birthright, doesn't matter about color. It's in me. It doesn't matter that I'm Black. It can be in Black people too, because Ridgeway told me, and here it is. So that's one thing. The second thing was at the dinner table when he discussed getting slaves to his dad. Annie, from what I can understand, is very much the maid, but she takes care of the house. So I said the lady of the house because I think she's just, like I said, she's much more than a maid. She sews her clothes on, she irons, she fixes that. She takes care of the house. And Arnold brought it up to his father, why don't we get some slaves? His dad was immediately disappointed. You could see it in his face. You could see it in his body language. He was immediately not just disappointed. I think he was hurt, like seriously upset.
And let me quickly jump in, because there's like a direct. So there are like two things that like directly mirror each other. So Ridgeway's father like pretty much said like, but we don't need the slaves because they help us around the house. Yet we look at Ethel in the previous episode, who doesn't need the help, but still wants the help. So that's the difference here. I just wanted to point that out.
And mistreated the person that you didn't need, because if she was better, there's not a point of I don't like Fiona. I don't want to make excuses for Fiona, but there's a part of me that believes she was mistreated by them, which made her dislike them more. Like Fiona probably didn't want to work there anyway, but from Ethel's just overall disposition, I could tell she's probably not a good person to work for, which helps. Okay. So on top of that, Ridgeway goes into this tirade about, well, Annie, what do you think about people who aren't like you, who didn't did she buy her freedom, or did someone buy her freedom for her? I can't remember, but Annie's free. That's what I say, that she's free for whatever reason. And Ridgeway was trying to make it a point to say, you're free because you deserve to be free for whatever reason. You've done whatever, you've paid your penance, so you're free. Do you think that people that haven't done that should be able to do the same thing? So, Annie, you went to school and you paid off your student loans. So do you think that other people that got student loans should have their student loans wiped away? Do you believe that's fair? And Annie's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah.
But I say it's cruel because there's one thing to be genuinely inquisitive. Like you're really trying to get the point you don't understand. But he looked at Annie and he could see how she was reacting to the questions. And that's what fueled him more. Mm-hmm. That's where the cruelty comes in even more. And his dad had to stop it. Mm-hmm. And even with that, again, Annie is not a slave, but there's a very important piece of slavery that people have to forget. It doesn't go away. So she's free and she knows she's free. But I think the terror in Annie was fueled thinking, if this man, the older Ridgeway, if he falls and dies right now, I'm a slave again. Right now. This boy is going to make there, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. And that's a constant fear you have. And I think he meant to do it. He wanted to instill that fear in her. And that's why I'm just like, I don't see how you can have this person that is rearing you, that is making you this person, and you end up being the opposite of it. But my only guess is, like I said, his dad, he's missing his mother, and that is a trauma that he hasn't unpacked because he doesn't even realize that's what it is. But his dad is doing the best he can. So he goes, he meets up with slave catchers and is ecstatic because he's like, I have done a thing. I did it. It was me. Nobody else could have done it but me. And the other slave catchers made him believe that. And even when he held a baby, you could see, again, there's the decency that your father and your mother have put in you. You have it. You're just trying so hard to get away with it. But he caught him and he felt accomplished and he bought the coats. And I don't think his dad could have done anything better than say, good for you, 2 coats. Because it's like, nigga, I don't want that coat. I don't want it. I don't need it. And even though you are giving it to me, I don't need it. So you keep it. That's the same thing. It's like he's doubling down on the slavery thing. I can have slaves. I could use slaves, but I don't need or want slaves. So I won't have them. And Ridgeway is just going to be, like you said, we know what he turns out to be, even in the end, but he has to have something fueling him. He's one of those people that need words of affirmation. Yeah. And him that's why he's so hurt that he never caught Mabel, because he never got his attaboy for catching Mabel. And that's why he has to be the slave catcher, because he needs something. He always needs something that's going to give him a medal or a pat on the back, or I did this. I'm the best. And only I could have done it.
He wants people to look at him the same way he looked at that bounty hunter walking into town. Like, that's what he wants. So that's his driving purpose. But I still didn't need this episode. So
with that said, didn't need the episode. We got the episode anyway. And next week we get Tennessee.
Yeah, we get Tennessee, which I've already
of course
looked
you have.
At the first episode of so there are 2 Tennessee episodes. I think it's like Exodus and Proverbs, if I'm not mistaken.
And Proverbs, yeah.
Yeah, Exodus and Proverbs.
Don't act like you had to think about it.
But no. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the Tennessee episode, because it's some heavy material, but at the same time, like it's a lot of interesting things to talk about. So I'm excited to get to that. And once again, just to close out, thanks for watching these. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe, and just keep on the lookout for what we have coming next. So we'll be here at the same time next week with Tennessee Exodus and Tennessee Proverbs. Until next time.
Perfectly.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace.